From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Chris Terrell Podcast, and I am your host, Chris Terrell, and welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week pan out for you? What challenges did you encounter? What failures did you go through? But more importantly, what lesson did you go and extract from that failure? Come on now. Don't go through a failure and not get your lesson. That would be a waste of a perfectly good failure. Now, if you're new here, my name is Chris Terrell, as I said, and I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting, up, down, down again, before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my lifestyle, habits, routines, my community, my environment, and to my systems of belief. And now I'm here each week to help you get results in your life. Now, if you're not a part of my free Facebook group, I want to take a moment and invite you to go ahead and join the free Facebook group. You can find a link to that by going to christerrellcoaching.com. And you can also find it in the show notes of this podcast. Also, if you're a Spotify listener, you can actually leave direct feedback to me via the app. I read them every week. I love reading the notes that you, my Spotify listeners, are leaving for me. All of your encouragement is appreciated. Any of your feedback and thoughts on what you'd like to hear is welcomed. I'm doing this to help you. Now, for the last several weeks, I've been taking questions from listeners of the Chris Terrell Podcast in that free Facebook group. So again, you come join that. It's free. And this week, I wanted to answer a question from Steffi Rose. Her question is, what would be some examples of things to do to remove friction off of exercise or to start enjoying it more? So I love where your head is at here. First, that you're aware of the concept of friction. Not everybody listening is going to know what you're talking about. So I want to take a moment and share a story about how I discovered the concept of friction. I didn't call it that at the time. I don't actually remember how I referred to it, but I knew the concept. I later started referring to it as friction. And as I do that, I think my story will help give you some ideas to start enjoying it more. So let's set the scene of where I was at on my journey when I realized this concept and it started to sink in. I was several months into the journey, and I started my journey off with exercise. I did incorporate that right away. I wasn't one of the people that waited to do it. So a few months into it, all I had done was swimming because it was the only thing I knew how to do was just to swim. And I was getting bored of it. And a coworker who was a pretty serious lifter, he was like, "Have you ever thought of lifting?" And I was like, "Well, no, I like swimming because I figure it's more calories per hour. So for every minute of exercise I'm doing, I'm burning more calories." Because my mission at the time was to just burn as many calories per minute so I could be at the gym for as few minutes as required. But it was working, but it was going down on the enjoyment factor for me. So I was talking to him and he's like, "Well, exercise, it burns more calories than you think." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, you're burning the calories when you're doing the exercise, right?" And he goes, "And when your body's repairing the muscles, you're burning calories then. And when your body has the muscles, it has to burn more calories per pound to maintain that." He's like, "So actually strength training would really help you." Thankfully, I listened to the guy. I really respected him. His name was Jeff. And I was like, "Thanks, Jeff." And I went home and I thought about it. And I was like, I'm going to choose to trust him. I'm going to choose to trust that he knows what he's talking about. And so I decided to start lifting. Now, that's where I'm at, right? This is just, again, setting the scene. Now, my entire workout routine, my entire everything about fitness was optimized for swimming laps in the pool. I had rented a locker. I had all my swimming stuff there. I had perfected, I could get there and then I could go swim. I could just go on the way home from work because I had my workout clothes, my swim trunks there, and it was working great. Well, then I now wanting to do strength training, and it was very difficult to get myself to go. And I didn't really at the time understand why. I was still getting myself there most of the time, but I was definitely noticing it was far harder to get myself to go lift than it was to get myself to swim, even though I was getting bored of the swimming. It was just, it felt a lot harder. And I remember sitting there one night on my chair trying to talk myself into getting up and going to the gym before I go to sleep that night. You know, I don't know what time it is. It's probably 8, 9 o'clock, something like that. I don't know. It was later in the evening. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is this so hard? Like, I was just doing this a few weeks ago. Why is this so hard to get myself to go? And I was like, all right, why am I not going? I just asked myself the question. I was like, I don't know where my shoes are. So I'm like, could I find them? You know, I just asked myself that question. And I was like, well, yeah, but I don't know where they are. And, you know, that'll probably take a minute. You know, I was like, well, I mean, they can only be one of a few places. And so I talked myself into going and finding my shoes. And then I just put them on. And then I just sat there on the chair. I didn't go anymore. I'm like, why is this so hard? And I'm like, well, why am I not going? And I'm like, well, the truck is cold. Why don't I just go start it? Like, okay, then it won't be cold. I'll just go turn it on. I'm going to turn it on. And then, you know, now I'm waiting. It's warm. I go get in the truck. And I'm there in the truck now. And I'm like, well, I'd learned this part before. I was like, well, if I just get in the truck, I'm going to drive to the gym. Right? I'm going to drive there. I'd already worked this part out. So this part of my routine didn't change. It was just the getting myself in the truck part. And then when I'd get to the truck, though, I didn't want to go in. You know, that was different. So I was like, well, just piddle on my phone. So I just piddled on my phone for a little bit. And then I went in. And I was like, just keep piddling on your phone. Like I found something I was enjoying doing on my phone. You know, I don't remember what it was. It would have been like a video or a podcast or a TV show or a great soundtrack or a new album. I was, you know, probably listening to musicals a lot at the time. So it could have been a musical I hadn't heard. And anyway, you know, I just find something that I liked, and then I'd go in the gym and just keep listening to it on the way into the gym, right? I just was get my head in that and just go do that. And then I'm there working out, and I go home. And then the next day, it was still hard. And I'm like, well, why is it so hard? Now, keep in mind, I went. Like I'm telling you, so I went to the gym. I was just aware. It was really hard. I didn't want to give myself, I didn't want to do it. But then all of a sudden it clicked. I was like, well, wait, how am I getting myself to go? And I was like, well, I'm just taking it one step at a time. Like it was so obvious. I was like, I mean, duh. Take it one step at a time, but I wasn't doing that. I was trying to go to the gym. I wasn't trying to put on my shoes. That's what I was. When I was trying to go to the gym, it was too big. It was too much work. Way too much work. But if I'm just trying to put on my shoes and then I go, what's next? And then just do that and then go, what's next? And then do that and then go, what's next? Next thing you know, I'd find myself at the gym. So what I discovered was making the act of getting to the gym, if I broke it down into smaller and smaller chunks, you know, if I turned going to the gym into getting my clothes ready, getting in the truck, getting from the truck into the gym, getting to the first machine, going to the second machine, just thinking of all of these individual steps, what I then was able to do was look at every step and go, how can I make it easier? How can I make each step easier? And so one of the things I realized very quickly is I am struggling to go work out because of my clothes. Because getting to the gym was just a hassle. I was having a hard time getting there. I realized once I got to the gym, I started doing okay. It wasn't too bad. Once I was there, I typically would work out. I mean, not sometimes I'd have to encourage myself to actually try, but like usually I did, and it wasn't without much fuss. You know, might not be an hour long, but I'd be there for a good solid 20 minutes, you know, and getting it done, still better than sitting at home. But I would really struggle to get myself just to get to the gym. And I realized it all came down to my clothes, and I said, okay, well, how can I overcome all of this? How can I make this easier? What are my excuses? I'm like, well, my clothes are dirty. And so that right away I was like, well, that's easy. What did I do when I played football in high school? We washed our clothes like once a week or two. They stank. And it's like, why do I care if they smell? I'll just wash them once or twice a week. Okay, there we go. Now I don't need to. What I was doing was bringing my clothes home every day and then changing out of them, throwing them in the hamper, and I had to have another. Well, I didn't have enough shorts, so I'd have to like go dig them out of the hamper. And so finally I was like, wait a minute, no, I'll have one pair of workout clothes and I'll have another and I'll just swap. And then I'll just wear the others until the other ones come out clean. And it's like, there we go. Solve that problem. But then I also realized my clothes don't have a home. They were getting lost within the rest of my clothes, but these were my specialty clothes. They were my workout clothes. I needed to be able to get to them easily. So I made a new home for them. My gym bag that I didn't own. So I bought a home for them with a gym bag that once I owned it, I could put the clothes in the gym bag. But then the gym bag needed a home. And I learned pretty quickly, if the home of the gym bag is in my room, I don't go to the gym as much as when the gym bag's home is in the backseat of my truck. When it's just always in the back seat, it's a lot easier to go. It's one less friction point on my journey of getting myself to the gym, is having a fully packed, always ready to go gym bag. Gym bags are an essential piece of kit. They're not a luxury. Yes, you can make gym bags luxurious, but now when I get a gym bag, I want it to be perfect. Perfect. I want it to do exactly what I want. I've got this Under Armour gym bag I've been using now for a couple years. I love this bag. I love it. I had another one that I loved, gave it to my stepson. I loved that bag. The one before that was shite. I hated that thing. I got it from Target for $20 as a cheapskate. That was that first one I bought because I'm like, well, I'm not taking my thing so serious. But then I got to noticing my gym bag was not so great. It gave me some grief. And I'm like, where do I put my shoes? And so I bought a decent gym bag. I spent some decent money on one and realized, oh, turns out a $20 gym bag does not compare to a $150 gym bag. They're not even close to the same. Very different experiences. I have just, ever since I started that journey, have just been steadily making exercise easier and easier and easier and easier and easier and easier to do it. But every time I change my routines, I have to create a whole new one. But the nice thing is, now that I've been doing this for years, it's not that bad. Right now, I am transitioning from a weightlifting routine into a running routine. I was in a running routine last year before I got injured and rolled my ankle, and I had to stop for like 4 months. And then so that's why I'm in the lifting routine. I've been slowly transitioning for like a month. I'm not in any hurry. It'll be done when it's done. And the nice thing is, I don't have to recreate this running routine. I'm just going back to the old one. But I have little things that aren't set up right. Like my gym bag, it's not set up all the time. And I'm also at a weird time of year where sometimes it's hot and sometimes it's cold. So I have to carry way more clothes than normal. So it's actually a really funky time to be transitioning anyway. But I'm getting my gym bag optimized the way I want it. I'm figuring out what needs to live there, what is worn out that needs to be replaced with the new season. Where am I going to put my gym bag? My leg isn't letting me run the way I could run before. Trails are pretty hard for me, so I'm doing more street running. So that's different kit. And so I'm like, oh, that's right. What did I have when I was street running? And I'm figuring all that out, and I'm letting the weightlifting one wind down. But I know it's going to happen. Eventually, the running routine, I'm going to transition into a trail running routine. And then at a certain point, I'm going to get burned out of running, or I'll overdo it and get tired. And then I'll transition back to a weightlifting routine, or maybe I'll transition to swimming, or maybe I'll try cycling at some point. I've been talking to my brothers about rock climbing. Maybe I'll transition into that. I realize every different thing needs a routine. And when I was just getting started with my journey, every form of fitness had 0 routines. I was making all of them up for the first time. All of them were version 1.0. And version 1.0 of any system is usually garbage. You know, when you compare version 1.0 to version 10.0, usually there's a very noticeable difference. Very, very noticeable. And so and going all the way back to the beginning, I realized that if I can take every individual step of getting to the gym and make it as effortless as possible to do, it will become easier for me to just find myself at the gym. Because I'm a human, and humans often will take the path of least resistance. If we're given a set of choices and all else is equal, we will pick the one that looks to be the easiest, generally speaking. So if I can make, when I come home from work, and it's like, well, I could sit down on the couch and do this thing, or I could go to the gym. If I can make going to the gym as easy as possible, well, I'll probably find myself there. And if I can make sitting around at home as unpleasant as possible, I'm less likely to do it. I can make it inconvenient. One of the things I did on my journey, as an example, is I started buying less comfortable chairs. Like before, comfortability for long-term sittability of a chair was a massive, massive consideration for what I was going to buy. Whereas now I'm like, if I can sit in it for an hour, I'm good. Like, because I don't want to incentivize myself sitting indefinitely. I have some seats that are very comfy. Don't get me wrong. I love a good sit. I don't need a whole house optimized for sitting. So I started making some parts of my house not optimized for sitting. Make it optimized for standing. So if I'm moving, it's easy to go. I started doing things like don't take my shoes off until I'm ready to keep them off. That way, when I want to leave somewhere, I just walk out the door. Because sometimes the act of just putting on my shoes would be enough friction for me to be like, nah, I ain't going out. I'm good here. I'm putting shoes on business. That's too much work. So then I was like, fine, if it's too much work, we're just going to leave them on. Get a floor mat or a shoe mat and you dust them off. So back to your question real quick, Steffi. What would be some examples of things that remove friction? I gave you a few of mine, but you had the part two, or to start enjoying it more. So I'll share one more element. We'll wrap up here. There's another thing I do that I still do. I discovered it like in that early days, like when I first started transitioning to weightlifting, I discovered this. I still do it. I've not stopped. It's been, I don't know how many years, but this has been my ritual. I think probably only Candace knows I do this. I'm trying to think if I tell people I do this, like how religious I am about this. When I go to work out, I want an instant dopamine hit. You know, hey, I'm ADHD. My brain, I got to find things that give it to me. And so what I realized is, yes, I want the reward that comes on the other side of the workout because I've never done a workout and on the other side been like, nah, I wish I hadn't have done that. Every single time I'm like, I'm glad I did that. Every time. But sometimes I don't want, I want to feel that on the beginning front side of the workout. And working out doesn't always provide you such a thing. So I wanted to get a dopamine hit when I got there. So what I do now when I work out, when I go to where I'm going to go, I get to piddle on my phone and enjoy a drink. And usually I get like an energy drink or maybe I'll have water or something. I just have a little beverage, a 0-calorie, low-calorie beverage and my phone. And I just piddle. And I just find something that looks interesting. And sometimes I might sit there and piddle for 5 minutes. Sometimes I'll piddle for 30 minutes. I don't care. I like to just give myself a nice little buffer. And it's just my little me time. You know that time that I used to spend late at night emotionally eating when it was finally my me time when everybody could leave me alone? For me, going to the gym involves me time. My me time before is part of the gym. They go together for me. Yes, I will sacrifice my me time and just go work out. And sometimes I will sacrifice the working out and just give myself some me time. But I really like having those two together. And when I'm in a good routine of working out, I actually really look forward to that 15, 20 minutes of me time where I can do whatever I want. If I want to make a TikTok, I make a TikTok. If I just want to sit and browse Reddit, I browse Reddit. If I want to read a book, I'll read a book. If I want to pull up my journal, I pull up my journal. If I want to sit down, roll down the window, feel the breeze on my face and listen to the birds as I sip myself an orange dreamsicle rain, well, then that's what I do. I do whatever I want. It's my me time. I don't talk to anybody unless I want to talk to somebody. If someone calls, I don't answer. If they send me a text, I don't respond. It's my me time. I'm busy being with me. And I give myself no longer the scraps at the end of the day. Once everybody's had something, here's a little left over for me. Thanks for breadcrumbs, me. No, I get some good time. I get some nice quality time, 15, 20 minutes of me time, where it just makes me feel me. And so when I go to the gym, I got to look forward to that every time. When I go run, I like my preferred way to do it is to drive to the park and then sit there for about 20 minutes or so and then go on a run and just enjoy that little bit of me time and just get out and be like, I think I'd like to go on a run. And then I go. And what often happens is in that me time, I'm piddling with my phone, I'll find something that I want to listen to that's long. I love YouTube. I'm a YouTube premium person, and I've been doing that since it was YouTube Red. And so I listen to a lot of things that are long form content, 45 minutes or something. So I'll like find a video, I'm going through going into the rabbit hole of the algorithm. And I'm like, ooh, this looks good. Oh, that's 40 minutes. Yeah, let's go on a run while I listen to this. And then I'll put it on and hit play and away I go. I found some brain candy sometimes. Sometimes I need some brain candy to get me going. I don't want to do that every time, but I got to do it sometimes. So the way I'd say to make the exercise more enjoyable is to make it more enjoyable. I like me time, so I had me time. You could try it. Maybe you'll like me time. And if you don't, that's okay. Maybe there's something else you enjoy. There was a time, I haven't done this in a while, but I used to, this would have been in 2020 and beginning of 2021, I exercised at Planet Fitness. And they had the hydro tables, like a massage table. Oh, I love them. I love them. So I told myself, like, every time I go to the gym, after I lift, I can go get on the massage table. I can do the full 10 minutes. And I just get to enjoy it, guilt-free. And it's me, and I call it my me time. Because me time for me is I don't exist to the rest of the world. I'm unreachable. Basically, I'm assuming that everything in this life can survive me not responding within 10 minutes. Like, right? My me time. And I love it. I just sit there, get that hot massage, and just piddle on my phone with my noise-canceling headphones so it was nice and peaceful. Sometimes I might just put on some calm, relaxing music and just lay there and contemplate the existence of life, or think about some funny joke that somebody said earlier, or plan what I'm going to have for dinner, or sometimes I might just sit there and try to think about a whole bunch of nothing. Whatever I wanted to do. It's just my me time. So that'd be my advice. If you want to start enjoying it more, make it enjoyable. And then maybe you'll do it more because you enjoy it. And it's really easy to do because you removed all the friction. Have a great day, everybody. I'd love to answer your questions. So come on over to the Chris Terrell support group on Facebook. It's totally free. Link in bio or christerrellcoaching.com.